So in this video I'm going to draw a small table, but before we get started I want to change a few of the settings. So by default we are in the architectural style, and the architectural style has got these thick lines with kind of a little marker on all the corners, and if you're designing something like a piece of furniture, that's really not ideal. So let's go under Window, Styles, and I'll select the engineering style. And that takes away the horizon and it makes the lines nice and thin, which is ideal. Next thing we want to do is change the units. By default, SketchUp likes to be in inches. I've already changed this over to be in metric. So I want to be in decimal, and I like to design in centimeters. And we'll select the precision to be 0.1 centimeters. And length snapping of 0.1 centimeters, 1 millimeter. That works out very well. So it's really important that you set your units, especially metric versus imperial, before you get started, because if you switch between metrical and imperial after you started drawing, nothing works out to a nice and round unit. Okay, now that we're done setting up, we have Susan here. She's part of the default setup when you start SketchUp. She's kind of shallow. She's really just a silhouette, but she's always facing us. It's good to keep her around while you're getting started because she gives you a nice sense of perspective. So I'm going to start my table by drawing a leg, and I want that leg to be 4.5 by 4.5 centimeters. So I'm going to draw just a rectangle, and you'll notice in the bottom right that the dimensions are displayed. So I'm going to click on here and then enter 4.5 comma 4.5. That means I want the rectangle to be 4.5 by 4.5 centimeters. When I push enter, the rectangle becomes that size. So let's zoom in on that a bit. So basically there's our rectangle. Now to create a solid, we use the push-pull tool, or extrude tool as other people might call it, and I'm going to turn this and extrude it into a solid shape. And I want that shape, I want that leg to be 70 centimeters long. Now notice again on the bottom right it shows how long it currently is, and if I type in 70, that becomes exactly 70 centimeters long. So there's our table leg. Now I want to draw some apron rails for this table. So I'm going to again draw a rectangle, and let's draw this, and I want that apron rail to be 1.9 thick by about 8 centimeters wide. So we're close to that on the bottom right, but I'll enter that as 8 comma 1.9, and now let's extrude that out, and I want that 60 centimeters long. Now you'll notice that this has just become one shape, and in fact it's impossible for me to move this part here. I can't even move this thing because it's kind of stuck to the leg. So this is our next thing. We need objects, so I'm going to hit Alt backspace a few times to undo what I've just done. And I'm going to turn this leg into an object so that the next thing I draw doesn't become stuck to it. So I'll triple click on it, and then I'll select this tool, and I'll call that table leg. So this is now an object, and if I want to edit this thing, I have to double click on it to open it, and now I can do things to it. But I'm going to leave this leg as it is for now. So now once again, let's draw our apron rail, and I can draw this on the face here, and I'm going to draw this at 8 comma 1.9, and I'll extrude that out 60 centimeters. So there's our apron rail. Now let's make that an object. So triple clicked on it to select all of that. Notice that it doesn't select the leg because the leg is in its own object, and the triple click doesn't select things into the object. So create an object of that. So there's our apron rail. And now let's take that leg and make a copy of it. And I'm holding down Control as I drag this along, and you'll notice the line that I'm dragging along is red. Basically, if I'm dragging along an axis and it snaps to that, here's along the green axis, here's along the red axis, that will drag it along that axis nice and parallel. So now I've got two legs here. Now the apron rail doesn't look very good if it's just flush with the table leg, so I'm going to take this apron rail, I'll select the move tool and I will move it in a little bit. And because I like to keep things nice and known dimensions, I want that 1/2 centimeter. So if you watch on the bottom right, I can drag that to 0.5 centimeters. It's a bit tricky to do that. It's easier to just punch in the number that I want. So now we have 2 legs for our table. So now let's create another apron rail. Now we've already got this apron rail here, and I just need to rotate that around to get one on this side. So let's rotate that apron rail. So I'm going to select the apron rail and select the rotate tool, and I'm just going to go on this face. Now notice this circle is blue, and that's because we're rotating about the blue axis. And I'll rotate, oops. Okay, now I've just rotated that, but actually wanted to make a copy. So undo that. And now I'm going to hit Control and again rotate that, and now I'm copying. Now that rail is not exactly where we want it to be. So let's use the Move tool, and I'll take to the corner of it, and I'll drag that to the corner here. And it's snapped to that corner, and now let's move it in by 1/2 centimeter. And I'm just going to enter that 0.5. And there's our second apron rail. Now let's take the legs and apron rail that we've already got, and we need to copy that over to create the next pair of legs. So I'll use this Move tool, I'll hit Control, and I'll move it. And there's our next set of rails. Now you'll notice the apron rail is on the inside. I could just move that, but I actually want to flip this whole thing so that when I go on and do the joinery, the orientation is correct. So I'm going to right click on this, flip along, and I'm going to do the green direction. So there we go. And now let's take this apron rail, and again, Control drag to move it. Zooming in here, put it flush, and now 0.5 centimeters. And there we have our apron rails. And Susan is standing right in the middle of our table. We now have a pretty good sense of scale for this little table here, so we really don't need Susan anymore. So let's select Susan and delete her. So now we need a top for our table. So I'm going to select the square rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle or a square right on top of the table. And now we have essentially just a 2-dimensional surface. So let's select this, use the push-pull tool, and I want that to be 2 centimeters thick. So I'm going to drag this, pull it off, and I'm going to enter 2 centimeters. And there's the tabletop. Now that really doesn't look very good. I actually want that tabletop to overhang the edges a little bit. So I'm going to select this edge here, and again use the push-pull tool, and I'm going to drag it out by 5 centimeters. I'm just going to enter that, and I'll do that on every side, and drag that out 5 centimeters. Now an interesting thing is if we have nothing selected and we select the push-pull tool, it will apply to whatever we have the mouse on top. So I can just do this 5 centimeters and then move around. I don't have to do separate select. I can just again go here and 5 centimeters. And there we have a nice little card table. In the next video, I'm going to do some joinery to actually do the joints that connect this thing and embellish the table a little bit.